Welcome to the show with bite-sized bits and discussions. Today, we have Dan with Fraculation Studios joining us, whose game Seed Defender is, hopefully, I believe, coming out later this year. My name is Ryan Papapost, and assisting me tonight, I've got Josh with Suggestive Gaming over there. I've got Dom up over there, and we don't have Logan because he hates me. So anyways, Dan, how are you, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm doing great. Just hanging out.
Just hanging out with the mushrooms behind you?
Yep.
Hanging out.
Yeah, I like this background. This is actually my room. I've cultivated these mushrooms over the past year carefully alongside my game development process.
Okay.
Impressive. What are those trees? Is that like cotton candy trees? Or...
Yeah, so those are like salvaged like timber from old barn houses with cotton candy on top. So it's very
nice.
Very like
fantastic.
chic. Yeah.
If I touch that mushroom in the background, will it eat me?
Which one?
The one behind you to the left.
I was gonna say, there's like
Yeah, that one will. Yeah.
Oh, to the left. The
That
branches
one's
kind of
breathing.
look
I don't like that one.
They kind of looks like mustaches on those.
That's what I was looking before, like
Yeah.
closely. I was like, are those like
I think that's
people?
what that is.
I mean,
Like personified.
It's
Interesting.
gonna open.
kinda
We're all
scary.
gonna freak out.
they're kind of scary. Well, anyways, welcome to the show, Dan. Your studio.
Special shout out to all the podcast listeners who have no idea what we're talking
Yeah, I was gonna say, watch it on YouTube later.
Yeah.
Um,
Audiovisual experience.
That's okay. You get a little bit here. That's why you got to watch it in both places.
That's
Plus,
right.
I mean, you get extra giveaway codes for the. Anyways, that's for later.
We'll get
Um,
there.
We'll get there eventually. No, I made sure, by the way, that Gary stayed in the sump pump today. That's just a little bit of a inside
Thank God.
thing from last week. But anyways, Dan, welcome. Your studio, Fraculation. First of all, I gotta know where did Fraculation come from? What is Fraculation?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I actually haven't. I don't think I've been able to tell anyone this story yet. So when I was trying to think about the name, I chose the name after I sort of already had the game in development. In the game, Seed Defender is all about like growing plants and having like dynamically generated plants that are very self-similar using L systems, and all that. So they're like a little fractally. So I wanted to come up with a word that's kind of like fractal, but is like maybe doing a fractal, like a fractal as an action, and fraculation sounded kind of similar to that. It turns out it technically is a word, and it's only been used once in media that I know of in Rick and Morty at one point. So if you search the phrase, you might get like a Rick and Morty clip, or you might get my website. It's kind of a worth a piece.
That's a slippery slope these days.
Yeah, a little
That's
bit.
true.
No. Oh no.
Yeah, but that's basically how it came about.
Okay.
I think the actual meaning of the word is to like separate into like so many pieces, and separate into like a billion tiny pieces, more or less, which is not really what I was going for, but I think it works.
Like a microscopic measurement, like a pico. That's
Kind
a
of.
joke that no one else is gonna get. I'm sorry.
I barely get it.
Pico Johnson.
No, I get it, but I don't
Oh.
that was a shoehorn like I've never seen before.
I'm sorry. So just to fill people in, we had a machinima many years ago, and Pico Johnson was the name of a character for Josh, which basically means microscopic wiener. But anyways,
Oh no.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to correct myself there. I misremembered the meaning of the word. Apparently, it's to be scrambled beyond repair, which honestly I feel like is fitting for my game development process.
Perfect.
Sometimes
It's
it
like
gets
my
scrambled. Mm-hmm.
It kind of works with how your logo forms on your website as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just kind of happens.
Yeah, it just happens.
So I guess I want to know a little bit about your background. If for those who don't know, I just like Lime, who's actually in chat today, hanging out. I met you at Midwest Gaming Classic. You were kind of showcasing your game, Seed Defender. I keep saying Seed. It's so easy to say that.
Yeah, you got to get it right.
And I'm the worst with names, so put me in my place if I'm ever. Anyways,
Yeah, I make the same mistake honestly sometimes. even it's my game, so
So
feel too bad.
if you see the name Anna or Anna, which one is it?
Oh my
Well,
god.
Wait, okay. I can't just. If I see the name, you'll have
Yeah,
to
you
tell
have
me
to
how it's
see it.
spelled.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta say
I
how
just-
it's
I
A
just
N
heard
N
it.
A. ANNA.
Anna. No,
K-
Anna. I think it's Anna.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no.
I was just totally like fucking up someone's name before, and
The problem
anyways.
wasn't that you fucked it up. The problem was that she told you how to pronounce it correctly because you
Oh
asked,
my
and then you
God.
proceeded to say it both ways just throughout the entire conversation.
Yeah, that's a throwback to our episode with Devecki. But anyways, Dan, okay, so I remembered you telling me this at Midwest Gaming Classic that you actually that's actually being generated on the website, right? The Fraculation logo, or is that just in the game where it's being generated in real time?
Yeah, that's just a captured GIF, unfortunately. But it is being so I generated it by like designing the plant system to generate it that way, but it's not actually running on the website. But it
Okay.
did run somewhere when I captured it, if that makes sense.
Ran
Yeah,
somewhere.
I get it.
So how crazy did it get? Did you have to like trim the bushes eventually, or like?
No, that's not implemented yet, unfortunately. No, it
Oh.
was basically what it ended up being was I would have like each letter is constructed by a series of like move forward or like split or turn
Okay.
commands. So like F would be move forward 2 times, split, turn right, move forward 2 times, and you get
Okay.
it.
Sure. Okay. So your game Seed Defender. We've been talking about plants, mushrooms. It's a tower defense game, right? That basically it's not like Plants vs Zombies. It's something completely different where you're kind of growing. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while, but it's a game where like you're kind of creating a garden, so to speak, and
Yeah.
protecting from. I don't remember what the enemy is either. So please expound on your game.
The enemies are very they're sort of like almost self-inserts. They're kind of whatever you want them to be.
Okay.
So the core sort of idea I built the game around, or the core motivation, is I wanted to make a game about genetics that wasn't just like a lot of the games out there about genetics are you have like 2 animals, you breed them together sort of manually, and you get like a even like very predictable blending of their traits, and then like you move on from there. Or maybe it's not even genetics at all. So from that, I decided to move to like explore ways that I could sort of take genetics and encode them into a system that generated like a being of some sort, and plants came out of that. So the core of the game, aside from all like the theory, the core of the game is you have these plants or seeds or seeds, I should say, that have like a genetic code in them. That you can grow the seeds, and a plant will kind of come out of that, and it'll be partly determined by the genes, but also partly determined by the environment you grow it in. So it's not quite like as deterministic as you might expect. And then you take that plant sort of once it's fully grown, or you decide it's fully grown, because there's no technically like completely grown state. You sort of freeze it in time. It becomes and then when you freeze it, it becomes a tower, as if it was sort of like Plants vs Zombies. So you kind of you like grow this plant. It's affected by its genes, it's affected by the environment, maybe plants that are growing near it. You get it, you turn it into a tower defense tower, and then it has all these attributes on it that are sort of derived from its genetics and its environment also. So it's not just like you get this plant and it has like it's this good at being a tower defense tower.
Sure.
It'll have like a different number of weapons, and each weapon will have a different range potentially, and the fire rate will be different depending on how many leaves are on the plant, because of that affects how much glucose the plant gets, all that type of stuff. So you have like all these complex systems interacting, and you get this plant, and then you put it into the relatively simple sort of tower defense level, and the tower defense cycle is pretty like, I think it's like roguelite-ish, that phase. Like you fight with this selected set of plants, you fight a few waves until you kind of die eventually, and then you get a reward based on how far you made it. And then the points, okay, and then the big loop is you get these points from that, right? That your reward, and you use those points to unlock different genes, and then those genes will become accessible when you like expose your seeds to radiation treatments, basically.
Ooh.
Like
Oh, wow.
randomize your genes, and then you have to like select for the genes you upgraded into.
I was gonna ask if there was like mutations involved.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yep. Yeah, and that's kind of all the mutations currently are exclusively intentional. Like you'll put your seeds into this like box, and it will kind of just like garble them up a bit.
So you don't have.
I like that.
Do you not have much of a choice of how your plant is genetically growing or modifying, or is it like random?
Yeah. So that's this is actually something I'm kind of struggling a little bit with. The choice that you have is sort of the same choice that like Gregor Mendel had when he was understanding Punnett squares, right? Like you can choose which plants breed with other plants and produce, and their offspring will have like traits that are not a linear blending of their traits, but it will be like the genes will actually perform like a discrete genetic combination. So you can control it by breeding them using genetic like combinations in the same way you sort of can in the real world. And that's kind of like
really
the
cool.
core of that. Yeah.
So it's not like a big tree of things where you could sit there and select. Because I'm thinking of like if you've ever played the game like Plague, is it called Plague Inc? I think.
Yeah,
When you
Plague Inc.
choose,
Yeah.
I think it's a fungus where it'll like you can kind of pick what you want, but it'll actually start like having mutations and other things that you have no control over. So I wasn't sure if it was like a tree that you choose from, or if it's just completely based on how you're breeding your plants.
Yeah. Yep. And what you described there is like almost exactly what I'm trying to avoid, because that's what I saw in a lot of other games that did like genetics.
Yeah.
It was you weren't actually really interacting with genetics, and which is the system of like multiple chromosomes breeding and like randomly mixing. You were just kind of like picking things that were called genes that you wanted as upgrades.
Dude, that
So
is
when it comes-
really cool. Go ahead, Dan. Or Dom.
Dan, so when it comes to like a tower defense, is it like a tower defense simulator type of thing?
Yeah,
Or
that
did
part
you
of the
pull? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you
go ahead.
pull inspiration from Plants vs Zombies at all, or were you just going into this thinking it'll be its own little thing?
So I will admit I pulled a little bit of artistic inspiration from Plants vs Zombies. The most basic tower unit is like the pea shooter from Plants vs Zombies. But the actual like level is the way you play the tower defense game is very different, because it's a classic like 2D. The enemies will not like walk in one direction; they'll follow a single path. And the ranges of the towers are fully, because the plants are fully 3D. The ranges of each individual weapon on the plant has a unique range in 3 dimensions, which will like intersect with the 2-dimensional plane the enemies are traversing. So there's some strategies, like you want all your weapons to be facing downwards a little bit, so they will actually hit the enemies, that type of thing.
Oh.
And so since you're defending the plants, of course, right? Do you have anything in the game that's like meant for defense only? Like walls, barricades, etc., or like plant walls or something like that?
No, I don't. I've thought about that type of thing. And an early build of the game had something kind of like that, where the enemies would literally try to hack through your plants. Like they'd literally destroy the physical structure of your plants as like a hedge to get through.
Okay.
But there's nothing like that in the game right now. I'm guessing what will probably happen to achieve that type of goal is a different type of weapon that might emit like a slowing projectile, or like an AoE that slows things down.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, just put up some thorn walls, man.
Yeah, then that's the type of thing that, if you could have a plant that was just thorns, that would be really easy to sort of implement in the systems that I've got.
They can be like barbed wire.
Well, yeah. Let's now we got the think tank going here. Now we're
we're workshopping.
You got your notepad ready, Dan, for all these ideas
that
you don't want to do?
It's always good to have ideas. It's always good to have ideas that I can ignore and I prioritize other ideas over. So I know what's important.
You can plant a vine with some thorns that'll wrap around your plants to help fortify them, and like here we go. Now we're on to some. Anyways.
And then if you make sure that plant has like nitrogen binding rhizomes, it can fertilize all the other plants. All kinds of good stuff.
I understood everything you just said.
Rhizomes, dude. I took 2
Yeah.
biology courses in college. I
I
have
just
no idea
took
what's
a
going
biology class.
on.
It's beans. It's just thorny beans.
Dude, can I ask, do you have like a passion with plants, and like do you have like a really big green thumb? Because I feel
or,
like
yeah, or at least biology, you know.
Yeah.
I think I do now. It kind of just sort of happened, to be
That's
honest.
funny.
Yeah, like I got I live in an apartment. And I was able to convince my landlord to let me put a like raised bed garden in last year. My sister got me into gardening like 4 years ago,
Oh
and
wow.
I I think that had like some influence over this choice. Like I enjoyed it a lot and started making a game about it.
that's really cool to me. Like I do not have a green thumb at all. So like just I don't understand
That-
anything about plants other than they die if you don't water them. So
Mhm.
I
That's
love
that is a
growing
big thing.
like food and stuff. So that's always fun to do.
Mhm. That's
Then
what
you
I'm
can
big
eat it.
into. Yep.
So
Yeah,
so
I'm less interested in decorative plants.
so with your garden, have you been like breeding? Like
No,
so
not
where where did the inspiration for that kind of aspect come from? Like I know you said you had seen kind of you know, genetics implemented in games before. Was that just kind of your jumping off point to do it in this kind of more scientifically accurate way, or
I think so. I'm actually not sure like specifically where the interest in genetics comes from. I've always kind of been fascinated with the idea of like simulating life in the computer in some way and seeing what you can possibly like get out of it. Um, like I think a cool way. Back in college, I made a sort of simulation of little what do I call them? Like microbes, I guess, that would try to like they would have very simple perceptrons that would try to seek out food, but they'd have a really very stupid brain, and they would only evolve through like genetic. Genetic would be a stretch. They would sort of be like we would call it genetic optimization. I think is what we tried there. So I think I've just always been fascinated with seeing how to like simulate the way that evolution sort of happens in real life, but in the computer, and seeing like what you can interesting effects you can get out of that.
yeah,
right,
that's always something that interested me as well. Because like so coming from my end of things, like
Mhm.
I am huge into genetic algorithms. Like I love
Yeah.
you know that area of heuristic designing. So like this to me is so similar to that, but in such a obviously different way.
Mhm.
Um so like that's why the idea of mutations and stuff sound really cool. So I'm interested to see, you know, where you go. Oh, and Lime in the chat actually asked if you were
Oh,
inspired by genetic algorithms. So there we go.
yes. Yes. Yep. That stuff is so cool. That's basically like the way I think about it is the player is the genetic selection algorithm. Like the genetics happen, but typically when you're using genetic algorithms, you would sort of impose a selection bias based on like some attribute, and that was like in some way derived from the genes, right? So in this
Right.
case, I'm making the player choose what plants are good, and in theory, they'll like eventually get some better plants.
I really like that idea. That is actually pretty cool. It turns the idea on its head almost, where
Yeah, yeah.
instead of having the algorithm drive its own, you know, path of evolution, that's the
Hmm.
player's job.
Hmm.
That's really
I think
cool.
some of the it's really interesting because then the player can sort of they're not only looking for plants that are like um the most effective fighters. Like in some of my playtesting, I've gotten a lot of people that like they notice this plant grows kind of like a ladder, so I'm gonna try to make plants that look like that because I think it's cool. So you can get all these interesting like little things that people select for when you have like a generation space that's big enough to allow for these types of things.
So can you accidentally grow black sheep plants that you don't want?
Oh, like a plant that just sucks.
Yeah, like
Yeah, oh, yeah.
sure, yeah.
That
Yeah,
happens
that's
like
fine.
at
You just
least
throw
half
them
the
away.
time.
At
Yeah.
least half.
Yep.
Perfect.
It's really common in the way that I have it set up, at least.
No,
So
that's good.
I'm looking on your website, and the sunlight seeking behavior is really intriguing me.
Yeah.
So how long did that take you to create?
Oh, I'm gonna. I want to make sure I see it right. No, okay. I remember. I actually know. I remember what we're talking about. So that was like the thing that made me so excited about parts of these systems I was building is the fact that that specific behavior was sort of emergent of the properties that I built into the L system engine as a whole. So it took me a while to. So what makes that work is the ability to sort of individually attribute the amount of sunlight that hits each leaf to individual like specific leaves, which is useful for driving growth towards sunlight. And just as a side effect, I can also make things that kind of like weave and
Yeah.
dodge to seek out sunlight. Um, so actually, I guess actually to answer your question, actually building the system that sort of cross associates the sunlight to individual leaves probably took me. I think if you include like the time I spent sort of thinking about how to solve that problem, probably
Mhm.
about a month to get through it all.
Wow.
And that's not
Yeah, I
short
was
days either, I'm sure. Those are nice long days. Just
Yeah,
plenty of
well,
hours
yeah,
into it.
yeah. Some of that was just like I'm working on something else, but I know that I have to solve this like sunlight exposure problem, and I'm
Sure.
thinking about like how is this going to work into this system while I'm
also
working on something
while
else.
while looking at it, I can imagine games using that for like very beautiful shots of like if you're like a small person going through a forest and you can see all the leaves flying around and stuff. I think that'd be really cool in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think
kind of
there's
similar to
yeah.
what you got here. It's kind of like mesmerizing. I can't stop watching it.
What are you just talking about the GIF with the sun going around with the
Yeah,
plants? Or?
it's so cool looking. I don't know how to explain it.
So if you guys are listening and you want to see kind of like what we're talking about while you're listening, if you go to fraculation.com,
.com.
you can see a lot of what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the article title is "Implementing Efficient Lindenmayer Systems in Unity." I think
Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say, Dan, like your website, I was glancing through it before. I didn't have a chance to like dig deep into it, but I mean, you've done a really good job at documenting kind of what you're doing, how you're implementing,
Mm-hmm.
especially the L system stuff.
I'm glad
So
you
I
think so.
I definitely recommend folks like if you're listening to what we're talking about here and you're interested in that, I think you could take a step in there and at least look at it and appreciate what's going on in Seed Defender here.
I mean, even if
Yeah,
you're simple like me and you just like pictures that move, like
yeah, I try to keep it illustrative because I feel like that's even for me that's the best way to sort of understand what's happening.
I agree. Dan, can I ask how do you approach like designing and implementing the AI systems in the game? Like what factors do you consider when you're creating how everything works together?
Well, when you say AI, do you mean the plant generation system?
Well, yeah. So, is
Or
it? Yeah, I guess that I am. I guess you can kind of
okay,
take that how you want to take it.
yeah,
'Cause I'm
yeah.
not sure
I
how it
guess
all works.
well, I can talk a little bit. Yeah, I think what the process I went through to sort of reach the L system that I have now, like the plant generation system, I it started with doing a lot of research to sort of figure out a way to reach the goal of transforming like genetic code into a plant that had um, relatively realistic physical qualities, like ability to have sunlight exposure and like water moving through the plant in a sort of like diffusion related manner, right? And the core of that was figuring out how to take this string of like code basically and turn it into a 3D plant or a 3D something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started with a lot of research just to figure out on existing techniques first, and I saw a few techniques where they would. My first thought was like um, trying to voxelize it somehow. So having some sort of procedure to turn it into like a voxel grid But eventually I found like basically the original paper for L systems and end up matching sort of what I wanted. And they actually talked about a lot of the things that I'm doing. They like especially the sunlight exposure stuff, like that's very closely related to stuff that they talked about in the sort of the first paper on L systems. So to be honest, a lot of the stuff that happened here was more or less a result of me kind of just like pouring through the established literature on it and implementing it with what I knew in C# and Unity and Burst and all that garbage.
There's so many
Don't call it-
languages, man.
Don't call C# garbage in my presence.
Well, there's good things about it. I use it. I mean, it's the thing I've written probably the most code in out of all languages. So
I just love lambdas. Give me lambdas or
Lambda's
give me
good.
death.
Ooh, go ahead, Dom.
Oh, I'm sorry. So in the future, do you think you're gonna add like weather type of things, like wintertime, fall,
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that would be
and
cool.
those types of variables?
My thinking around that is, I think I'll have like different sets of levels, like different difficulty levels, right? Like you'll start at almost like Stardew level. You'll start out spring, then you'll move to summer. Maybe it's a little bit tougher, and you get like different enemies and different terrain, and water is a bit scarcer, so you have to like breed plants that are more drought resistant. So I think there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. Once I get like to the point where I'm ready to start cranking out content, I think that'll be a big part of it.
Okay. Another question from chat. Was there any inspiration from other games that used mesh deformation, like Jade Cocoon? Like, what was the inspiration for the graphics?
Ooh, what was the inspiration? I'm not sure if I don't think I took any like intentional inspiration on the graphics. A lot of this is just sort of cobbled together stuff. Like the plants themselves are sort of just they were initially like welded like cylinders, just kind of copied onto it themselves. The simplest possible thing I could come up with.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there might have been like a little bit of inspiration coming from the OG Spore games. Like I really like those.
That's
And
that's the
they're
game I was thinking of before.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and they're very like procedural generation based. They don't really have genes or anything, although they kind of pretend like they do. So and that's maybe I took some like thematic inspiration from that.
Gotcha. So basically, he stole all of the inspiration from that game.
Oh yeah,
Yep, everything.
Max is
So,
sue me.
Yes.
I'm calling Molyneux right now.
Get old Pete.
Even like the weird creatures show up.
So right.
Yeah, and I guess I can say that like a lot of the actual in-game graphics that aren't related to the generation of plants are more related to just what I found that I could do quickly. So like a lot of the in-game like graphics and UI are just really super simple 3D meshes because I found I could do that a lot faster than 2D graphics, that type of stuff.
Oh, okay. One of the things I wanted to ask before it leaves my brain, just because a lot of this seems like it's very procedural, maybe to a degree. What was like the funniest glitch or most unusual behavior that you've experienced when like trialing this stuff out? Because I'm sure there's been some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Let me think.
I'm coming with the hard
like,
questions.
There's so many things that so the part of okay, so this could get interesting. I saw a few plants that would have they have variance over their structure, right? So some of them would branch so rapidly and so densely that they would have like 128 branches, but they'd be like this big. So they'd like branch, they'd like move a little bit and then branch and then move a little bit and branch and branch and branch and branch.
Oh my.
And that's like horrific for performance. So a lot of like the work that I did around, especially around like the sunlight engine, is like specifically to sort of exclude all those ridiculous, like preposterous outcomes out of
no super powerful
system.
broccolis running around and
no, unless they have enough leaves to support all that biomass.
Okay. Cool. Another thing, and Josh, please feel free to step in if I'm kind of stepping on your toes.
No,
But
go ahead.
are you? And I think we talked about this during Midwest Gaming Classic a bit, but are you kind of using this game as kind of like a stepping stone to doing other games and other things kind of with plants and things? Because like if, for example, a game like Viva Pinata had some kind of like procedural like plants where you could, mix and match, to the level that you're doing with your game, would have been really
Yeah.
cool. So it's like, is that kind of the plan, the stepping stone to the next thing?
Yeah, I think so. I already have at least one idea for like something I could use these plants for. But yeah, I'm really interested and like excited to turn this into sort of like a reusable part of my games. And in fact, the code is public, so I mean it's really messy. But if you want to use it, you can't use it for commercial products, but if you want to use it for something free, do it. I think
Okay.
the sort of next game I was thinking about is almost all like if you've played Mountain, this would be familiar to you. Sort of like I'm thinking of like a Zen, almost like bonsai simulator where you'll have
Ooh.
plants, but you'll be very tightly focused on like one highly detailed plant or maybe two or three, and you would sort of like trim it or provide like certain qualities to the plant and then get sort of like a score for it. Maybe the score doesn't
Sure.
even do anything because I feel like trimming the plant is just and like caring for it would be reward enough.
So
That's kind of like
mentioning
go
that
ahead, yeah.
like Zen type of thing. I was wondering what type of music do you have in the background for the game, if there is any, because I'm a sucker for music in games.
It is a free music pack I got off of
Mhm.
Humble Bundle. I don't even know the title. It's very placeholder right now.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what type of music does it have? Is it like whimsical happiness, or is it kind of like relaxed?
Death metal.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, I'm going for like the whimsical, almost like cartoony vibe.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like very lighthearted, especially because a lot of the animation and like generation of the plants almost feels like stop motion ish. So I've integrated that thought a little bit into how the enemies like move around. So I'm going for a little bit of a like toy like vibe there, where
Oh
everything
wow.
feels a little bit like not really smoothly moving, but like kind of like jerking between positions to sort of keep the whole environment in line with how the plant generation system sort of inherently behaves.
Oh,
That's
okay.
fun. I like that.
um,
Thank you.
I think. Oh, what was it? I had another one too. Oh, have you? I know you said you've used, the music packs, but have you collaborated with anybody else to help get things done in this game?
I've tried one or two times. I had a UI sort of designer give me like a few tips once, and I think that's the extent of it so far.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I need to. That's something I definitely need to get better at because there's some things like the art and music that I'll need to eventually like find someone to help with.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you planned on keeping the same artistic style that you have now, or if
Mhm.
you planned on changing it up a bit. Once things are more stable and not as resource intensive.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think I will because the UI is very placeholder. I think I have like a sort of like pixel art UI right now, and I think I want it to be a bit more closer to like the vector graphics or something like that. With sort of the style of the rest of the game, everything is very clean, simple, like sharp edged matches. The pixel art doesn't really fit too well.
Sure. Okay.
I'm gonna take things aside just for a quick second. You should have never mentioned that the code was open source and available,
Oh
because
yeah,
now I'm looking, because I've just been
look
looking
at
at it,
it.
and first off, I'm blown away. Second off, you have written more documentation just for this one thing than I have written in my entire career.
Dude, I
And
don't know how you keep track of anything. I would forget all this if I didn't
it's
document
all up here in my
it.
ADHD mind. But yeah, that is insane. I can't wait to dig into this.
Yeah,
Um,
part of the reason why I did that is because like I think it'd be really cool to see like people using it and then contributing to it potentially if it's
Sure.
getting used out there.
I'll change one thing syntactically and I'll submit a pull request.
Then you'll be a contributor.
Hell yeah. Put my name in the credits. So I did have a question, just going on like the music and UI thing and even a little bit further than that. So like what for you looks like something that's, I know that you have alpha builds like on your Discord, but like what looks like something that's ready for public? Are you thinking early access? Are you thinking, you're just going to get to a certain kind of milestone and release it and then just update from there? Like what does that look like for you, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think there's sort of been this thought in my mind of the point where I am ready to start generating content, because there's a lot of like core gameplay loop things that I still need to figure out. And I think what will happen is I'm not sure if I'll release a demo or if I'll go early access once I have that point and have like a little bit of content after that point. But I think it'll be either one of those. Like I'll want to release something out into the world once I reach sort of a point that I consider stable and like stable enough for me to start building on top of. So it'll be either a demo or early access, and then from there I'll add more and more features like more weapons, more environments, more levels, and all that, and get to general release. Yeah.
The business part of it's always the hardest part to try and figure out, because I feel like especially with like smaller games, like putting a demo out, someone might just play the game on demo and then they feel like they've gotten enough out of it and then won't feel inclined to buy, unless they absolutely loved it. So like, but then you got the whole like, well, a lot of people don't trust early access games. They don't want to sit there and invest in a game that people have been burned so many times. So yeah, I'll be following closely and interested to see what you do.
Yeah, and for me personally, like luckily, I've almost sort of decided to opt out of needing to care too much about the business side. Like I've sort of decided to move slowly on this. I'm not really planning to do this full time. Like I have like a different full-time job to support myself with. So this is just a hobby. So that's why I'm like, if I'm a little bit wishy-washy, it's because I don't really take the time to think about it, because I've decided to kind of not have to.
Right. Just because now I'm extra curious. You don't have to tell me the company or anything, but what you do for work, is it related to what you do on the side, or is it something completely like you would not even think that you do?
I can tell you, it's on my public LinkedIn. So I work for this place called PostOff. It's complete. The only thing that makes it related is we're writing code in C#. Everything else is completely different. I tried working for a company that was like doing game dev in Unity for a bit, but I found it wasn't. I thought it might be rewarding to do game development as my job, because I enjoyed it so much working on my individual projects, but it ended up not being as rewarding, since I think what I really enjoy is working on stuff that I have like full control over, but I'm glad I tried.
Yeah. Well,
like is the creative aspect kind of the driving force, as opposed to just implementing somebody else's ideas?
I think so. I think that's kind of what I discovered about what makes it fun.
I mean, you could always just give your resume to Raven Software and just say, hey, I'll make you awesome plants for Call of Duty. I'm just saying.
They just need to give me about 80% of the performance budget, and I'll make it happen. I'm sure that'll work.
That's funny, and it's a cool thing. Just because almost all of us here are Wisconsin-based, not counting Dom, but you're Wisconsin in our hearts. So it is nice to help support local companies and businesses. And just real quick. Just to give you a moment to breathe there, Dan. Speaking of local businesses, We are partnered up with, and Dan, maybe you've heard of them or seen them at Midwest Gaming Classic, but Dark Fusion Systems. They build these really cool boutique mini ITX PCs, and we're doing a giveaway for them, or for not them. There's only one. There's only one. So it's a nice little system that I learned last week can run Cyberpunk at full settings. You know, that's all you need to know. So we are doing a giveaway that's running through the end of August. And if you watch our shows live here, there's a code. And these codes are worth a lot more than just the general entries. So I do want to give away that code right now just so we can get it out of the way. And the code for today's live stream is ACCC4UOV. As in Victor. ACCC4UOV. So, just so you guys might want to enter that, you get, I think, 30 or 40, I believe, entries into the giveaway, where most things are like 1 to 2. And if you're interested, you can get $150 off your build by mentioning Bucket Bites when talking to Henry at Dark Fusion. So, they're
very nice.
They're very nice.
I will mention that every time.
So check out Dark Fusion. And actually Lime is also from Wisconsin that we had on a couple of weeks ago. So it's nice to have all this Wisconsin representation here on the show, and I absolutely love that. So
Yeah, not me. I'm from the dark pits of Virginia.
That's okay.
Virginia, California.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
So Dan, I'm curious, you make games, you work on games. You actually did a game jam that was kind of with some other people, and it was actually a really fun little game. And I'm actually going to put the link in the chat right now, but it'll also be in the description of the video as well. But you made a game called Disconnect, and can you talk about this game jam? Like, what was the topic, and how did you guys come up with the idea?
Sure. So the topic that we got was roles reversed. That was kind of it. So we spent it must have been 4 hours brainstorming to settle on a solid idea. We went back and forth a little bit. There were a lot of kind of interesting ideas out there, like thinking about how to invert what types of roles can you reverse? Like, what is a role? Do you want to also reverse the goals with the role? Like, if you reverse Mario and you play as Bowser, do you still want Mario to win, or now you like trying to kill Mario, or are you trying to like help Mario? That type of stuff.
Right.
One of my like favorite ideas that we had that we didn't use, but I feel like it's just so out there, was like inverting the role of specific components of a game. So like the camera in a third person shooter, how would you invert the function of the camera almost? Thinking like a function is typically to show you something that's useful. So if you could design the camera so it would avoid looking at things based on like a certain utility metric of different things. So it would like almost be like the most useless camera ever. But eventually, like how we actually ended up on Connect 4 is we were literally brainstorming in a physical location that had a Connect 4 game. We just looked at it and we're like, what if we just did that? We just reversed that one. And that's sort of how the idea seeded. From there we did
Seeded.
yeah.
Sorry.
Through that.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
And from there we just did a little bit of like paper prototyping, sort of like placing tokens around, seeing like how this mechanic would feel if we tried to like try to make the board play against the players type of thing. Which was that, honestly, looking back on it, that phase it's interesting how that worked, because we found that out of the three of us, we had two people playing regular Connect 4, one other person trying to shift the tokens around after they were placed to prevent either of the players from actually winning. But we found that when we were actually when we were intelligently placing tokens intentionally. It was we never got the board to win. Like there was always a win. It seemed almost impossible to make a game such that it was possible to like fill the board in a draw with Connect 4. So I was thinking, is this like actually possible to fill a Connect 4 board without connecting 4? That type of thing. So from there, then we tried placing the tokens randomly, and we found that it actually placing tokens randomly ended up in a draw like 100% of the time, like every time we did it. So there was like this spectrum between randomness, completely random, and like as intelligent as I am in placing Connect 4 tokens. Like somewhere in there is like a good
So you're a
difficulty
master at
level.
Connect 4. Got it.
Well,
Yep. Now we know.
apparently.
Don't play this guy at Connect 4. He'll take your money.
By the way, this is I just played around, and that was the probably most brilliant thing I've ever experienced in my life. That's
it's so tricky,
such an amazing idea. Yeah. You really have to like completely reverse how you think about the game. Like that's it. That is such a brilliant idea and such a great implementation too.
Yeah.
Of having to
Thank you for
play
that.
against. It's great. I recommend everybody go play it. Like it's on itch.io, so you can just play it in your browser.
Yep, it's technically mobile compatible, but it's a little janky. So
sure.
Oh, I might have to try it like that. I like playing janky things.
Yeah, the controls are just like.
That's
you might be able to figure it out. I won't spoil it.
I'm sorry. So yeah, the premise of the game that you guys made is basically you're a ghost while people are playing Connect 4, and your job is to not let anyone win because you're just a big jerk. And
you just hate the players.
Yeah. So it's actually pretty fun. I played it for like, I don't know, 45 minutes before I went on to start rating things. So, and for me to play something for 45 minutes is impressive because
Did you win?
Hold on.
No, I did not. I did not win. I think the most I ever got was like 29 or something like that.
I just got 25,
okay.
and that was a lot of fun. Like I can't wait to play again.
So how many is there? There's how many turns would it be like max to win? Like there's 6.
I think it's 6 by 5, so probably 30.
30, yeah. So I was like really close then.
You were so close.
Yeah. You almost got
there.
there.
Post to play a game for 45 minutes.
Yeah, but that's
rare.
But that's after that last one. I said, "Fuck this out." It's the browser. I got mad.
Yeah, I think the tricky part about it is it's already like almost hard enough when you're thinking about Connect 4. Like you have to evaluate: is this token I'm gonna place improve my position or hurt the position of someone else? Right. But when you're shifting like an entire row all at once, you have to almost like make that computation once for every single token you're shifting. And it's like it's really tough to keep track of all that.
Well, and you move it row by row, or like you move the row.
Yeah.
So like having to think, 2 steps ahead. Like, oh, I love this. This is amazing.
And you can't just have them alternated either, because at some point they're gonna cross.
And they'll do you'll get a 5 or you'll get a diagonal.
Yeah.
It's pretty sneaky, sis.
Yeah.
The team on that was it was incredible. We were able to get a really very very skilled artist to like do all of the art for us sort of at the last minute. The 2 other developers did all of the like animation, like the hand movement, and hooking up the menus and all that. All I did was sort of the back end where we designed like the AI and the moving of the tokens and all that.
Right.
But it was all very satisfying, and it was the first game jam I did with a team.
Sure.
And it's gotten me thinking very seriously about scheduling like more team game jams because it was so satisfying compared to this like 3-year game I've been working on.
Right. Well, it takes your brain and it focuses it and brings you outside of what you've been doing on the dailies. So like I think that kind of stuff is super cool. When does that jam end, by the way?
I think it's over now.
Is it?
There was 1 week of voting and then a couple days for the Game Maker Toolkit guy to come out with his final ratings of the game. But that doesn't mean we have a rating now. We're in the top 250 out of nearly 7,000. So
back to vote. You actually have to play 10 other games before you can choose which one. and there were some that were not so good, some that were. I mean, obviously, what was the time frame that you had on that?
It was a 48-hour jam. Technically 49. They bumped us a little bit there.
Yeah, so they had 2 days. You guys had 2 days to build this game. What was it? 48 development hours or just 48 hours, just day to day?
Yeah. Well, it was 48 just total hours. They gave us the theme 12 a.m. on Friday, or 12 p.m. I think, and we had to submit by 12 p.m. on Sunday. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because when I went through, I played a lot of games actually. I think it was like 30 or 40.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there were some pretty decent ones. There were some not so decent. Some were rough. But I mean, everyone's in different phases and learning and where they're at. And there were, to be honest, there were some that were pretty freaking nuts for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well they were prepared.
Overachievers.
But how many people do you think kind of like prepare for something? Like they have something that they know right away, like, hey, I can use this base piece, whether it's the art or whatever, and they can just like flip it and turn it into something right away. So
yeah, there's like a lot of, I bet the more you do game jams, and I mean Lime Blossom is chiming up here. I know he's done a lot of them. Like you can get faster at them by like just by practice, right? There's a lot of techniques you can learn that maybe don't, I'm not sure if they would make sense or not in like a bigger game, but they can help a lot if you can like know how to streamline a lot of the like basic stuff you have to do every time.
Gotcha. Yeah, no,
Man,
I wish it was cool.
I wish I could write code after 4 p.m. because I would love to get involved in this kind of stuff, but
oh yeah. I think I ended up taking off on the Friday, and those were long days. Yeah, like 4 hours of sleep, working every other hour of the day basically up until.
Sure. So when you're not making games, what are you playing? Do you play games?
A little bit, yeah. Let's pull up my Steam history here.
Fun.
I don't.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Let's see. The biggest game I've been into lately, it's like almost embarrassing. I've been playing a lot of Peglin. It's like there's a name for what it is. Basically, it's a roguelike game, except the core.
I'm not roguelike. Like roguelike is fine. I don't roguelite actually is what I'm okay with.
I feel like roguelike is such an overloaded term at this point.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of like, it almost looks like Peggle.
Yeah. So you'll like throw a projectile down into like a pegboard, and the pegs in the pegboard will like add damage or like give you gold or something. It's highly randomized.
Oh, it's legit Peggle.
Yeah, it's like battle Peggle. I like this.
Huh. With a little Yoda looking dude with a or
goblin,
Grogu, whatever. Yeah. Anyways, okay.
Yeah,
that was right. So you're playing
it's
Peggle?
Not like, and it's not. It's the thing about it is like it's not that.
It's deeper than that.
Engaging, or like it's almost easy. One of those games you can almost turn your brain off to work on, which I feel like is what I'm leaning towards a bit more now. As I'm like, if I feel like I can turn my brain on, I'm a bit more motivated to like try to do some game dev or coding or something.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's what I'm leaning towards. A really cool game I played recently was Viewfinder. That one I think got a lot of.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one with the pictures.
That one was
right?
crazy.
And like you place things based. Yeah, I saw clips.
That was a good game.
Of that game. That was on early access for a long time before they finally just released it, right?
Oh, was it? I think I didn't know that.
So I think so. Because I remember seeing, and maybe it was just early development videos of the game, and like they had like a demo period or something. But I remember seeing it a long time ago, but it only just came out. I thought not too long ago.
Yeah, there was
like 3 days ago.
I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'm not even sure if it was the same developer. I'm assuming it probably was, but there was a GIF of like the specific mechanic they have implemented in the game that circled around like game dev subreddits at least once or twice a year, every year since 3-4 years ago. It was like such a like a very, very cool little like core mechanic that he had implemented.
Okay.
There's another game that's kind of like this.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of, Josh.
Where like you can make the there's a chess piece. What the hell game is it? What is it called? Hold on.
I don't know.
I'm gonna find this.
I thought that was the same game.
No.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it came out a couple years.
Superliminal. Superliminal? Super.
I should play that game.
Yeah, it's called Superliminal is what it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one is almost like the inverse because you use perspective to change the size and properties of objects, whereas
that's exactly what I was
copy
thinking of.
paste. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the game I was thinking of was Superliminal before. So it's a very similar concept.
Yeah, where your like perception changes reality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude, that is such a heavy statement, by the way.
Well, just take that into your daily life.
Well, it holds true though.
Absolutely, sir.
Deep thoughts here on Bucket Bites.
That's what we're here for.
So I want to ask, what is in your main system? Like what's your build? What do you play on? What do you develop on? I want to know.
Okay, let me pull up system information. So I actually I have a 3080 that I got I think about a year ago in my rig. Let's see what CPU I have. It's been a while since I've even looked at it.
Is it a pre-built, or do you like building computers, or do you?
I typically will build myself. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I have like a couple laptops that I've gotten from jobs, but everything I buy myself, I will.
You like to put it together, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something just therapeutic about doing it. So
yeah, I feel like you get a better deal.
Speak for yourself. Yeah, I get the better deal. That's why I like it. But I fucking hate building PCs. I'm just shoving cables wherever they fit. And then I wonder why the shit stops working. And like,
but you know what though? That's why I give Henry so much fucking credit for his systems, because in those little fucking boxes, you can't even see the fucking cables, and I don't know how they could. Anyways, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not to turn this whole episode into a Dark Fusion commercial, but like I am constantly amazed at how good of a job they do. I could never. Like, you should see the cable management in my PC. It's a fucking nightmare.
Mine too. All right, so you got a 3080. What kind of? Do you remember what's the kind of CPU or what?
Dude, I'm trying to figure out how to look this up actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
Okay. So Lime in chat says I suck at wire management, and that holds true for about 99.8% of the population. So
yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Are you Windows 11 or 10? Or
I think 7? I'm Windows 11 now.
Because if you just type about your PC in the start menu, it'll come right up.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I've got an AMD FX 8358 core. So it's like it's pretty decent. I feel like it was like reasonably priced 5 years ago, so it's got to be outdated by now.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I'm on Windows 10. Okay, not 11 yet.
Well, it works the same on 10 and 11 apparently. And I think it's. Go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry. I just learned that I must have upgraded my RAM at some point, because I apparently have 64 gigabytes of RAM now, and I don't remember doing that. So
hey, congratulations! Did you download more?
I downloaded more RAM. Yes.
Every time we talk about PCs, I always like remind myself that I need to get an upgrade.
Well, you need to get a job first, sir.
Well, he's got a job. He's working.
I'm fucking with him.
Do you know what you can get though? You can get that new 16 gigabyte RTX 4060 Ti that they just came out with 3 days ago.
I have no idea what you just said, but sure.
Yeah, those were numbers.
Get the big boy.
It's a 16 gigabyte VRAM. Okay, so NVIDIA released a 16 gigabyte graphics card, which is, pretty fucking high actually. Most you're gonna see are gonna be anywhere from 6 to 12, unless you're going to like a 4090, I think, which has like 24.
I was gonna say I've got 24 in mine.
I was gonna say, except for a 4090 with your 24, but you're still, I guess it's interesting because they have such high. And Josh, I don't know how in tune you are with specifications these days with these things. Just because I've also kind of slipped out of it a little bit. But what do you think would benefit more? And Dan, feel free to chime in too. But what do you think benefits more to a gaming system? Is it speed or is it capacity?
in
in
the GPU?
graphics,
In terms
Yeah.
of just graphics on a GPU.
speed, for sure.
Well, speed first, I agree.
Yeah.
But capacity, there's something to be said about capacity too, because
Mhm.
games these days are getting larger and larger, and are also requiring more VRAM.
See, I disagree completely because of how good texture streaming is getting from NVMe solid state
Sure.
drives.
Sure,
So,
and
like,
it's part
yeah.
of a system working together. I get
Right.
that.
So I think VRAM is like less important now, as long as you've got a solid state drive or an NVMe solid state drive, because there's that technology the PS5 uses. I forget what it's called, but there's something similar for Windows now.
Okay.
I think it might be
Oh, yeah,
Intel
that-
specific, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, you're talking about the tech that lets it go straight from the drive to the GPU without going through the
Yes.
CPU.
Yep. So yeah,
Oh.
so essentially you're bypassing the VRAM altogether because you're just streaming directly from the solid state drive. So
Well, it would still have to cache it in the VRAM, wouldn't it? Like it has
I-
to store it.
I
there.
don't
It can't-
know. I don't know. Because I think it doesn't have to store it because it can access it so quickly from the NVMe.
Is that like is NVMe an SSD or is that something
Yeah.
else?
Yeah.
Okay. It would have to store that in the, because if it couldn't store that in the VRAM, it would have to load it from the SSD every frame that you
No,
render,
I see
right?
what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but yeah, you're right. It just doesn't have to store as much because it doesn't
I
have
see.
to. It doesn't have to pull forward, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It can like
So-
swap stuff in and out very rapidly.
Correctly, like
Yeah.
so quickly. I'm not saying it bypasses the VRAM altogether, but it doesn't have to
Mhm.
cache as much because it can access it so quickly.
That makes sense.
Okay. So let me ask this then. If you had the choice between a 4060 Ti and a 3070 Ti, which I think the 3070 has only 12 gigs on the Ti, or I'm sorry, 4070 is only 12 gigs compared to a 3060 with 16 gigs, would you then choose the faster GPU?
I'd choose the 40 series no matter what.
Well,
just
I meant
because of
47
DLSS.
Right. I guess what I meant to say, and I misspoke, was would you choose a 4060 Ti with more VRAM capacity, or a 4070 Ti with less capacity but faster speeds?
I would personally, I would choose the 4070.
Okay, the one with
But-
the faster clock speeds,
Yeah.
and less capacity. I
'Cause-
mean, at 12
yeah.
gigabytes is you're fine, I think, anyways. But
I was just gonna say because for that minuscule of a difference in VRAM, like the tensor cores alone are gonna make up for it. So
yeah, but the 4070 Ti, but then you got to think about it as your 4070 Ti price price for performance for $300 less. You can get the 3060 or 4060 Ti. You know what I'm saying?
if we're talking like price point wise, like 3060 is probably gonna be fine.
I keep saying 3060. It's a 4060.
4060
I'm
versus
sorry,
40,
I
yeah.
keep
Now
saying
you got
that.
me all fucked up.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's my fault.
No, you're probably right. For the $300 difference, I'd probably say the 60 is fine. I'm not even gonna say the first two digits anymore.
Right. Oh man, I'm sorry. I was just kind of curious where your thoughts were, and just because NVIDIA not quietly, but they're not really promoting it. They just released that 4060 Ti with the 16 gig. Not too long.
They always
ago.
do
It's just-
kind of do that mid like generation refresh that they never
Yeah.
really talk about. It just kind of
Well,
happens.
Well, and it's interesting because they took the old Ti, which was, well, it's still available. Previous
now it's
was 8
TIP.
gigs. Right. Is that what they call it, the TIP?
No, that was a fantastic rap joke that 4 people are gonna get.
TIP?
There was a rapper TI, and then
Yeah.
for a little bit he was TIP.
Was he really?
Yes,
I
yes, he
didn't know
was.
that.
It was
I
like
had
for
no
one
idea.
album.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know. I did not know that.
So that's why that was a fantastic joke for 4 people, like Ti.
And then also, I'm curious, Josh, if I'm sure you have seen this, but the Spooderman PS5 that
No.
they kind of show. Oh, did you not
No.
see it yet? Go look
Didn't
it up.
we talk
real quick.
about this? No. Oh,
No,
it's an actual model of the PS5.
It's the system. They're
I have
making
not
a
seen this at all.
Spider-Man PS5
I have to
console.
buy
and
a
actually,
third PS5.
Ooh.
Oh my! You have how
My
many?
listen to this guy just humble brag all the way through this episode.
Oh,
He's
I don't like this
"Ah."
that much. I'm fine with it.
Okay, all right.
I don't
Why do
like
you
it.
have two
I thought it was pretty
PlayStation
neat.
5s?
One for the office and one for the living room.
What about the bathroom? You need one for the bathroom.
No, I can stream to my to my to
Oh,
my
okay.
phone with the backbone, you know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I'm never that far.
And also Dom, you put something in for some
No, I
other
didn't.
minor gaming news. Something with
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat. What's up with that, buddy? What, Dan? Are you a Mortal Kombat guy? Do you like Mortal Kombat? Not a big fighting
No,
game guy?
not really. A lot of my friends do, but I never got into fighting games. I suck
You
at
don't.
them.
You don't like
Yeah.
just mushing buttons. You just don't
Mushy.
like that. Just
Yeah.
like slamming your buttons and yeah.
I did that a little bit with Super Smash Bros. I would always play Bowser and just throw people off.
Oh,
Yeah,
Bowser's
myself,
fun.
yeah. That's as far as I've gotten.
Gotcha. All right, Dom. What's up?
So to Mortal Kombat 1, they finally revealed their DLC that's
The
coming.
one
with
that came out in
game.
like 1994?
No, the reboot to the reboot.
Oh. Oh yeah,
Mortal
Mortal Kombat
Kombat
1. That's
the new
like
one.
it's new.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
new.
Oh, and it was 92. Now I feel like a fool. My joke didn't even work.
God,
So,
what a
The
disappointment.
DLC has some like heavy-hitting names like Omni-Man, Homelander, Peacemaker, and some returning characters as well. So I'm into the Mortal Kombat stuff, and all that's really exciting. I won't dive into it deep since no one else is into it like me, but
Dive deep, brother.
okay, fine. So the returning characters, one of them was from Mortal Kombat 10. He was one of the combat kids, which was
Now was Mortal Kombat? No, Mortal Kombat 9 was the first reboot.
Mortal Kombat 9 was the first reboot.
Okay, sorry. Go on.
Mortal Kombat 10 was the game after 9,
Right.
of course, and they dived into it, and that's when the time traveling shit started happening.
Sure.
So yeah, one of the characters from Mortal Kombat 10 came back. A lot of people were surprised he wasn't in 11 because he was really fun to play, but Cassie Cage was in the game still. So his name was Takeda. He was trained by Scorpion, and everyone missed him, and now he's coming back in the DLC. Another character
Related to
that's been
Johnny
gone-
Cage?
Cassie Cage is Johnny Cage's daughter, and she became the main character of the series.
And she was trained by Scorpion?
No, not the returning character is named Takeda, I think.
Oh.
And he was trained by Scorpion.
So what does Cassie Cage have to do with anything?
I was referring to like the list of characters he was
Oh,
involved with.
there was a comma I missed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
So
Just
he-
trying
he
to
was-
follow along, guys. I'm
He
sorry.
was a part of
Damn
that
spoken
group
commas.
of the new Mortal Kombat characters. He was part of that group and one of the fan favorites, including Cassie Cage, right? So he was trained by Scorpion, and he wasn't in 11 for no reason. No one mentioned it. A lot of the characters from 10 weren't in 11. So he's come back in the DLC, which is cool. Ermac, a longtime character in the Mortal Kombat series, is finally coming back. He has a weird looking redesign, but he could be interesting. And I think the other returning, I don't remember the other returning character right now, but those were the ones that caught my attention the most.
Mm-hmm.
So all that should be, I hope it's fun, because I would love playing John Cena in a Mortal Kombat game.
Oh yeah, I guess Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker. That'd be really
You
funny.
said Homelander's going to be in there too?
Homelander's in it with Omni-Man as well, and
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
definitely gonna
Dude,
play
all of
fucking
these-
Homelander.
Dude.
Yeah, that's a good combo. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Is that new for them, or do they typically pull in like comic book characters from other franchises?
Not really new for them. No, they've always like grabbed things. So in Mortal Kombat 11, they had like Rambo, RoboCop,
Okay.
and
Oh, nice.
Arnold, Terminator.
Okay.
I wasn't interested in that stuff since I wasn't watching.
You're
that
not a
stuff.
boomer.
No,
I get it. I
no.
get it. You weren't alive when. Never mind. Sorry.
So far, Mortal Kombat 1 has a very strong roster that has my attention. I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out. So that was mostly it for the news.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's good.
Cool.
Thanks for the update, dude. Yeah, talk about what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And
You
if
got
it's
to
about ripping
sometime.
people's hearts and spines out through the front of their chest, I mean, that's on you,
Mhm.
man. That's cool, bro.
I don't know what characters I hope that would be in it for like DLC, but those so far are just absolutely amazing for me.
All
Like
right.
I love
Yeah.
all that stuff that's there right now. So I couldn't imagine what other characters they can pull. They can maybe for PlayStation players bring Kratos back because he was in Mortal Kombat 9,
That'd be
and that
interesting.
would be interesting seeing Kratos with like Atreus or something as a DLC combo.
Damn.
Ooh, that would actually be kind of slick. I haven't played the new one yet though, so I don't know if that would still be slick or not.
Are you talking about 11?
No.
No,
The
I think
newest
he means
God of War.
Ragnarok. Yeah.
Yeah, Ragnarok.
Oh, Ragnarok. Oh shit. Yeah, my bad.
I
I've
still
seen
have
this.
not played.
It's
Don't spoil it.
interesting.
I still
I'm
haven't
not
So
played.
spoiling
yeah,
anything.
it's all right.
All right. So hey Dan, I'm just kind of curious, just because we've talked a lot about your game and a lot about your experience. What about the man behind the development of all of this stuff? Like, what do you like to do? Like, what are your kind of your hobbies outside of making games
Oh man. Okay. Well,
and programming?
it's funny because my first the first one on the list is gardening, which we've already talked about. Um, I guess I'm a big cooking guy, so
I thought you were gonna
ooh,
say something.
I
I
got
thought you were gonna say cocaine. I was like,
Oh,
wait, what?
well,
What? I don't know.
I mean, I might be. I haven't tried it yet, so who knows?
Yet? Oh, okay.
I got really into
Okay.
into baking bread and like the not quite sourdough, but all that type of stuff back in the pandemic or when that started.
Sure.
So, but I've always been really into sort of like cooking my own meals, experimenting, trying out new
Cool.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it's fun.
Cool.
Mhm.
Do you have a family at home, or are you kind of you're flying it
It's just
solo?
me.
So you
Yeah,
have
solo.
See, that's why you can do that. I can't do that because I got picky ass
I think
little kids
yeah.
up there.
I think so, yeah. And I've been, like I've sort of made the intentional decision to sort of put off dating for a little bit. Like I've only put a little bit of effort into it, but
Yeah,
not
that's
much
fine.
beyond that because, I find like working on game development stuff takes up so much of my time. Like I have so much stuff to keep myself occupied with
Sure.
that I'm pretty happy
I
with it.
respect that. I respect that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
It's
okay.
responsible in a way, you know.
No, it very much
Right.
is. Very much.
Yeah,
is.
I don't want to be in a relationship when I have like all this other stuff that I want to do that isn't
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, dude, absolutely. It's the one thing, one of those things that people easily forget about, especially when they have a
Mhm.
family. Is like you gotta take care of yourself and make yourself happy. Like that's like you got to take care of yourself. And I think a lot of people, especially once they have families, they kind of forget about that.
Yeah, and you got
'cause
to know where your
you're
priorities are.
focusing, yeah, and your own personal happiness is a huge part of your enjoyment of life. So like,
Mhm.
take care of yourself, dude. Have fun, and
Yeah.
and move at your own pace. That's what's up. So
Absolutely.
I know we've been kind of pegging you with questions, a lot of questions. Something I do like to ask our guests is, do you have any questions that you want to ask us? You don't have to. It's
Mhm.
okay if you don't. But if you do, feel free to ask away.
Yeah. Well, actually, Josh, I think you mentioned that you're a little bit of a programmer on your own time. So I'm curious, like, what's that been like for you? Like, what type of tech stack do you work in? Like, do you like it? All that type of stuff.
So I don't get into too much of what I do in the day job just because you never know with
Okay.
weirdos on the internet.
Oh,
But
that's fair. That's fair.
I can say like what the tech stack looks like.
Okay.
So I'm a C# guy, 110%.
Yep.
Used to be VB until I convinced them like it's not 1994 anymore. We gotta get into C#.
Oh man, I know how that goes.
Yeah, so we're .NET, and it's I mostly do Windows development just because it's easy. But if we have to do web development, it's
Mhm.
IIS just running .NET.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty bog standard stuff. Nice.
Yep, yep.
Pretty
So,
cool. Yeah. There's a lot of things in that space. A lot of people doing stuff there.
mhm. And I love like I've gone to Microsoft stuff a couple times over the years,
Yeah.
and like I love their kind of programs that focus on developers, and I love .NET. I have absolutely no complaints about it. So
There's a lot of cool stuff. Do you stick on the sort of the bleeding edge where you're doing all the like Roslyn analyzers? I feel like aren't even new anymore, but they were at one point. .NET 7, all that type of stuff.
yeah, so I'm in .NET 7 now.
Nice.
But like Roslyn and all that, like the stuff I make is so minimal. So I work for, a company where I'm making stuff for like one location essentially. So like
Sure.
it's code bases are very, very small, and it's not like I've got tons of code that I need to make sure is optimized. Most of that stuff is just for me. Like if something's taken, a minute to run that I know could take 10 seconds, I'm gonna spend a week getting that down.
Yep.
But
Just because you can make it.
because I know I can do it.
Yeah, you got it.
I remember the first
Yeah.
time. So I'm at least at the time when I started, I was the youngest developer by, let's say, 30 years. So I remember the first time I rewrote something in a recursive algorithm, and they were like, "What the hell is this doing?" And I was like, "It's easy. It's recursion. What are you talking about?"
They didn't teach me this in high school.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's
I don't
incredible.
know.
That's always a good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting stuff to work a little bit faster.
But yeah, that's the day job. Hoping one day I can get out of there. Don't tell my boss.
Oh no.
He listens. I see the
He might.
I see
He
the
might,
analytics. I was just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thanks for sharing.
So cool. I think the last thing I wanted to mention, just a couple things. Number one, we have a game called Bramble, is our July game of the month. That we've been. Yep, it's been kind of quiet. But we do give away a copy of that game if you're interested in winning a copy of that or next month's game. You can just do !GOTM in chat if you're interested in that, or go to our website, www.bucketbytes.gg. You're also going to find the information on the summer giveaway for the Dark Fusion PC there as well. Something else I really wanted to make sure that I don't think we've formally announced it yet, but it was on our calendar, is this upcoming Monday. We're having our first Bucket Bites community kind of game night, where we will be playing Jackbox together. There will be a couple of us. I'm not sure who's all going to be there, but we are going to be playing with viewers as well. So we hope to see you there. That'll be Monday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Monday, the 24th. So yeah. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to try and actually get the podcast audio version out tomorrow, and then the video version out on Sunday. So that's kind of what's going on with that. And I think that's kind of it. Dan, before we go, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about whatever you want, whether it's your games, whether it's, whatever you want. So your socials, where to find you, go ahead. Floor is yours to talk about anything.
That's a lot of power.
Including politics.
Well, I think
No.
I think I'll just plug myself. I mean, check me out. Go to fraculation.com, linktree/fraculation. Search me up on Twitter, Danomite, all that. Check me out and contribute to the Lindenmayer plant simulation repository on GitHub. If you're interested in this type of stuff, look at it. See if you can get it to work. If you can't get it to work, tell me, because you should be able to. And yeah, try it out.
That's something we didn't get into. So you're going to have to come back, I think, Dan, at some point. But we didn't talk about AI at all today. And I know that you've got some viewpoints. So I think you're going to have to come back if you had fun today.
I'd be open to coming back.
Look at that.
Oh, nice.
Open to. He's like, if you pay me enough. No,
You paid me just enough this time, but we'll see about next time.
Man, dude, I'm telling you, you're stretching me thin too. That got moths.
We've already got all these giveaways. Yeah.
I know. No, Dan, you're awesome. Really appreciate you coming around. Thank you for everybody that's out there watching us live, listening to the podcast on Spotify or wherever else you listen, and also to those of you who watch us on YouTube, because we are all over the place just trying to get that exposure. So my name is Ryan. That's Dom in that corner, and that's Josh right there. We're Bucket Bites.
Before we go, I am gonna implore everybody to check out Dan's website and take a look at his posts, because read through some of that stuff. It is fascinating.
Do it.
Do it. This is Bucket Bites. Everybody, appreciate you all. Check you next time.
Appreciate it.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man. Oh.
Oh, he left.
Oh, shit.
Oh, he's back.
Okay.
To do that.
Oh, thank God it's over.
Get me out of here.